This is the UAW and Volkswagen and Nissan. What happened? If you'd like to take your seats, we'll get started. Okay. So, the United Auto Workers suffered several high-profile losses in the South, including at Nissan and Volkswagen in 1989, 2001, 2014, and 2017. The union has yet to win a wall-to-wall union vote at any non-UAW or non-U.S. automaker in the South. Why does the UAW keep losing, and what will it take to start winning? Those are some of the questions that we want to try and tease out of this conversation here. So let me start by introducing everyone. My name is Scott Houldieson. I'm the Vice President of UAW Local 551 right here in the south side of Chicago. I'm also a steering committee member of the Workers' Solidarity Action Network. To my left here is Byron Spencer. Byron is a Volkswagen worker in Chattanooga. He was on a key member of the organizing committee to organize the workers at Volkswagen in Chattanooga, and we look forward to hearing how that went. To his left is Robert Hathorn, sorry. Robert Hathorn. Robert was a key member of the organizing committee at Nissan in Canton, Mississippi, and one of the leaders of that organizing process. And then Shambe Jackson, Oh, it's Jones. How did I get Jackson? Okay, I'm sorry. Shambe Jones, Nissan organizing committee leader at the Mississippi Canton plant, and we look forward to hearing those stories. And Wendy Thompson. Wendy is a retired UAW Local 22 member. She's a past president of UAW Local 235 at American Axle, where there was a strike. What year was that strike?
That was in 2007.
2007.
And Labor Notes went to the picket line.
And Labor Notes was on the picket line. Okay, so now that we have the introductions out of the way, I'd like to get started with Byron. Byron, would you speak a little bit about what happened in the organizing drive at Volkswagen in Chattanooga?
In 2011, I started working at Volkswagen, and I guess the beginning of the organizing drive started later that year. I started in January. In November of that year, I went to my first meeting at a hotel near the plant. Then UAW President Bob King was there, and I ended up joining the organizing committee at that meeting. And our initial strategy, or the initial narrative, and I have no experience with unions before this. I was a restaurant worker before I worked in an auto plant. And so the narrative was that we were going to get a card check campaign, that Volkswagen was favorable to unionizing, and we would get a majority of cards and they would recognize. That never really happened. We waited and waited, and we had a majority, and then we ended up going to a vote in 2014, February. There was a huge snowstorm, which is rare down in Chattanooga. During the week of the election, they closed the plant one day while the election was ongoing, and we ended up losing by 46 votes. And so that was that. And they did end up winning a maintenance only, which I'm not a member of maintenance. I work on the line, but they had a micro unit, but nothing ever really happened. They ended up losing their court case, so that's dead now. So that's where we're at. And yeah, so I guess like one of the major points about what may have gone wrong was while it was implied that we had a strong majority before the vote, I found out in the meeting we had right after we lost the vote that following week that the most we ever had was 54%. So we went to a vote with a very slim majority. So it was you know, we came pretty close to winning, but we did not win. And that was, I guess, the point where I started to maybe question some things, and me and some other of my coworkers confronted a few weeks, maybe a few months after this, confronted some of the UAW organizers, and they actually spread rumors amongst our coworkers that we had become anti-union and taken money from anti-union groups that were spending all this money on billboards in town or whatever. And I'm still a member of our members-only Local 42. I even go to the occasional meeting, even though I haven't been in a while. And I still count even the members of our executive board amongst my close friends. But I do have some problems with how the international organizers conducted our campaign. And I think that part of the problem is that they never really listened to us, and they never really gave us any agency in how we conducted to try to win our organizing campaign. And I think we suffered for that. And Volkswagen is a very brutal place to work, and we still need a union and need things to change more than ever. So, either way.
When are you going to do it again?
I couldn't answer that.
We're going to have each of the panelists give a explanation of where they're at, and then we'll switch over to questions. I'll pose a couple of questions, and then we'll take questions from the audience. If that's I think that's a workable way to conduct the panel, if that's all right. Okay, Robert, would you give us a little explanation of what went on with the Nissan organizing drive when it started and how it came out?
Good morning. How y'all doing? All right, I ain't doing great. I'm pissed off because we lost. So I'm kind of upset about that. But let me tell you what happened. I started at Nissan in 2013 as a temp worker with Kelly Service. I'm quite sure you guys have heard of that. And I've actually been involved in unions from my previous jobs, from the post office. I was a seasonal worker there, and UPS I was a seasonal worker. And I was actually in Unite, the union Unite up at Levi's. And so I had a pretty good experience with them. And plus my mom and dad. My dad was a retired UPS worker. My mom's a retired teacher with the NEA and all that. So, and Nissan came along, and I didn't know they didn't have a union because I really thought just every auto manufacturer had one. I mean, it would be smart, because it's dangerous working in the places, I ain't gonna lie to you. But as I started working with Kelly, I started seeing these summer workers with the UAW shirts and everything like that. So one of them stopped and asked me a question: how do I feel about the union? Would you sign the card? And I took the card from it and signed it immediately, or whatever. So within the 2 years, I went ahead and converted over to a Nissan. I don't say full-time employee, I'm gonna say permanent pathway. That's what they call it now. Still not the equal pay, equal opportunity, all that other stuff. And right when I was converted over, that's when I got the opportunity from the UAW to go to the White House and speak on the workers' panel for permanent temps. And that's when the real fight started beginning. That's when I got real active, got real involved in it. And I went to DC again the following year to speak on the DNC platform or whatever. So I've been real active in that and everything. So, but just getting straight to the election, because the fight was going on way before I got there. And it was, I'm not gonna say it was dragging or anything like that, but, just wanted to be sure that they had, the correct numbers, like, is this it? Are y'all ready? And everything like that. So they would make sure everybody was on board and everything. And I do remember, I got a call when we was on the summer shutdown, 2 weeks off. And one of the organizers said, we went ahead and filed for the election. And I ain't gonna lie, I got excited like I saw Santa Claus or something, just being honest. So I was ready. And it was so amazing because just right then and there, Nissan put up a video that said that, I think it was director Steve Marsh, and he was like, I'm disappointed that we did this, we are a family, blah, 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 so all this other stuff. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And so, but from then on all the way to the election, when I tell you, Nissan, they came with the woodworks, we went straight to war. I'm talking about, just like what he said, bulletin boards all across the city, vote no signs, commercials. I ain't never seen a Nissan commercial in my life. Workers talking about, I love Nissan, and this is my life, and blah, 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 and everything. I'm talking about every single 2 minutes. I turned the damn TV off. Just to be honest, I got tired of seeing it because I knew it was BS. So, after that, and even at work, they had videos, and they started passing out all these flyers, damaging the UAW, saying all this stuff and everything. But the thing that killed me the most is that I know that right before the election, I think it was a week before, I started seeing these workers with these vote no shirts that the company gave out. And I was like, where are they getting it from? So, and right in front of the building, it was a big old box. And they asked me, you want a t-shirt? And I said, nah, you must don't know who I am. I'll probably take that and burn it or something, But, and people just started, wearing the shirts or whatever. Then they had another set of organizers for the anti-workers. They just decided to come up with this on their own. And they had their own vote no shirts. So it was really overwhelming or whatever. But it didn't bother me at all because one thing about me, I don't kiss ASS, and I don't run up behind the managers or anything like that. They're just me because I know what I'm there for. And I wanted a divorce. And that was my whole reason for fighting for that fight, you see. But, as it went on or whatever, they started having roundtable meetings with it was required to go to, and every employee had to go to the meeting. And basically, the whole meeting was like, well, the UAW going to take your money, and, and they was like, you could lose your benefits. Everything that you got now, you may lose that, and, we're here to help you. What's the problem? We're your family, blah, 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 and all this. And I ain't gonna lie, that crap put me to sleep, because I already knew that that's what they were going to do, But it got into some of the heads of the co-workers. You with certain managers, they know who to come at, and they ask some of those to go upstairs and talk to them one-on-one and everything, and, try to get them to vote no, and we all know how it goes or whatever. And I was really, they called everybody up there but me. I was really ready to go up there and talk, but they did not want to talk to me at all, So I said, okay, no problem or whatever. But then the craziest thing that I seen was that it's a radio station down there. I forgot the name of it. But somebody called in, and it was the most racist shit I heard in my life. Excuse me for cursing, but it really upset me. But the thing what it was a guy on there. He said, if y'all bring that union in, all of you folks are going to go back to pick cotton. You remember that? Yeah, seriously. And the thing about it that gets me the most is that, okay, that would have frustrated me. I'm black and everything, and I damn sure ain't no slave. You see what I'm saying? So, and I let all the other workers hear that, and some of them were like, well, he got a point. Really? That's your mentality? We've seen it all the time. He can tell you, Shambe can tell you. People walk around there and they consider themselves well-paid slaves. That's not the right mentality to have inside that place, especially in the South, when we're known for civil rights and all the marches and the protests and everything. We got history down there, and we need to act upon it. That's how I feel about that. So when they come from the election, I would went up there, went to go vote and everything. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I seen some of the people who said they were down and everything, they said that they're gonna vote, they switched up at the last minute. They can't, Robert, I just can't do it. I can't lose this and lose that, because one of the fear things that they have, Nissan got a lease car program. It's pretty good, pretty good program and everything. But there was a threat of saying that, they're going to take your cars away. you know. And I was trying to tell them, I'm like, so you mean to tell me that they're going to take all these cars away from you, the manager, the supervisor, the director, the maintenance man, all that, and a lot of people not going to have transportation to work. So you really think that's really going to happen? Like, that's where they get most of their sales from, to be honest with you, because they're not selling anything right now. I'm just saying, I'm just being honest, you know. So, but it was a lot of fear. A lot of fear. They were scared to lose everything, scared to lose their pay and stuff like that. So, and the thing about it is that, like I said, once we lost, it wasn't even a big number. It was, I think, like 61 or something like that. Yeah, it wasn't a real big margin and everything like that. So it upset a lot of people. It didn't upset me, and you know, I was kind of angry a little bit, but I still walk with my head up. I'm still gonna fight.
Shambe, can you tell us about your experience at Nissan?
Yes, Shambe Jones. I started at Nissan in 2003. It was pretty much the beginning when it opened up. So I was there for 13 years, getting fired 2016. And everything he said is correct. The campaign that they had, I mean, the billboards, the signs all over the city. He talked about the T-shirts that they gave out to the employees, but also we had HR wearing those same Vote No T-shirts all over the planet, and they supposed to be, you know, nonpartisan, but that's the way it was. And so the fear is very real. I was one of the fearless ones, and I wore union shirts almost every day, and they didn't like that, so they tried to come up with a policy to mandatory uniforms. And out of everybody that was fitted first, of course I had to be first. And they didn't have enough uniforms to make it mandatory at that time, so I kept wearing my union shirts, and they never did get enough, and it ended up being where they just dismantled the whole idea, and they weren't able to do it, so that was a good thing, yeah. We fought against that. Yeah, that was great. And they tell a lot of the new workers that come through the Kelly's temp service, not, you know, I mean, even in my orientation from day one, they say, well, we don't need a union, we have an open door policy, but their open door policy is for you to leave. And they don't want to talk to you. And I've tried plenty of times going through the chain of command and talk to people about different issues, and I wasn't being heard. And so I would start going to the top people, and they were like, well, you got to talk to them first. I said, nothing's getting done down there. I need to talk with somebody that has a little more voice, a little more power. And yeah, they didn't want to hear that. So I was a troublemaker. They used to tell the workers to stay away from me. And yeah, I was very aggressive in trying to get this union started. So I wasn't there during the process when they voted. I was still helping out with the campaign, even though I had gotten fired. That whole situation, I had been not complaining, but notifying them about unsafe working conditions. And I was saying, like, somebody's going to get hurt. And I was telling my immediate manager this for a whole month. Nothing was done. So I went to his manager, the section manager, told him the same thing. Whole month, nothing was done. So I called the compliance hotline, and nothing was being done. So a little time went on, and then the person that ended up getting hurt on that job was me, out of all people. And it didn't hurt bad enough where I need to get medical attention or anything like that, but because they were ignoring me, I wanted it documented. So the first thing that they do is they send you to their health clinic facility, and they drug test you. And I was aware that they had drug test people, and it said it was positive. They would go the same day to another facility, take another test, and it would come up negative. Now, we have the MEA clinic and we have the Nissan clinic. They both send their results to the same place, to the same lab to get tested, but they was getting different results. So that's strange, you know. So I'm letting the nurse know that, you know, I'm aware of this that's going on, and, you know, I don't want it to happen to me. So anyway, they kept me in there so long that I wasn't able to go to another place that day to get tested. And I think they did that intentionally. And so Monday morning I called in, told them that I had some person I had to take care of, went and got tested, everything good. I did the same test that they did. And I went back to work, and they asked, then all of a sudden HR coming out, Shambe, what job is that you're talking about? So I showed them the job that I was telling them about for 2 months. Now they want to come see it. But it was still exactly the same way that I told them. And I asked my manager, could I take pictures and the video of it? He was like, no, they have to be approved, this and that. I did it anyway. But, so they called me to the office and told me that I failed their test. And I told them that I took a test of my own that says otherwise. But we're not accepting anyone else's tests, and we have to walk you out and let you know. And we'll get back in touch with you. They didn't get back in touch with me to bring me back. They called me and told me what my official last day was, and I haven't been there since. But immediately after that, they were still working on campaigning, so I joined the UAW team there and helped out with the campaign when Bernie Sanders and Danny Glover and them came. And so I helped out with that, and I thought it was going to be a clear win. I don't know, maybe I was mistaken, but I thought that, you know, we had a very good chance, and sadly we wasn't. Yeah, and you know, just I don't know. The fear there is so real. He talked about the lease program, and a lot of people are afraid to lose their lease vehicles when they should be buying vehicles themselves. You know, they should be able to afford to buy a vehicle, not having 3 lease vehicles at the house. And if you lose your job, then you got to give them back. You know, that's not productive. So yeah, it's a sad thing, and you know, like Robert said, I was very upset. I was upset the whole time when I first started getting involved with the union, trying to organize. That's what made me do it, because I was upset of the way things was going on. I seen a lot of unfair things going on. I seen biases, racism, sexism. It was a lot, and yeah, it's definitely not a good thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Shambe. Wendy, can you tell us a little bit about your history?
You know, Labor Notes has been talking about the need to organize the South, and especially auto plants in the South, for a long time. And there's many different ideas about what is the right strategy to get organized. And it is clear the UAW did not use the right strategy. But I don't want to deal with that question right now, and I'd like your ideas on what you think is the right strategy during discussion. I want to talk about why the UAW did not have the right strategy, because there is a long history. I mean, a lot of people have heard about the UAW, how it was formed through sit-down strikes, and how it developed industrial unionism. Everybody goes into the same union, which makes you stronger. And those are things that we should be proud of as being unionists. But there are other things that a lot of people don't know about. And that is that Walter Reuther, who participated in the Civil Rights Movement, which was important, understand the needs to connect to the community, very important. But what else did he do? In the 1950s, he wanted control of the union. So if you did not go along with him, you were called a communist and you were fired. He eliminated all opposition and created this caucus, which really, frankly, doesn't exist in any other union to the extent it exists in the UAW. That is a caucus which is organized from top to bottom with total control of the union. Okay? And the way they get people into that is that, you know, if you're elected to local leadership, they lead you to believe that you have to belong to this caucus. You go to a convention, you're elected delegate, you're not appointed, you're elected, that's good, but they herd you into a meeting. You don't even know that this is a caucus meeting, Once you get in there, you're told that if you don't go along with the majority, that when you leave the room, you must shut your mouth about your disagreement because you came into a room and you didn't even know why you were coming in there. So these are tactics that started in the 1950s. Okay, so lack of democracy in the UAW, to me, is a key reason why they didn't develop the right strategy for organizing the unions. The other thing that they did starting in the 50s and 60s is everybody talks about how UAW has great wages, great benefits. True. But what a lot of people don't know is that they made a trade-off with the companies. We'll ignore working conditions. You can do what you want in the plant. The members will have no say on the shop floor in exchange for those wages and benefits. Not a good idea, and in fact wasn't necessary, but it indicated the future. The future changed and got worse in the 1980s, in the sense that in the 1980s, that's when the union agreed to go along with lean production. How many people have heard the term and know what lean production is? Okay, a lot of people don't. Lean production is that you eliminate every second of work that you possibly can in the plant. Time where you're not working, to fill it with work. Okay, so and the concept is constantly changing, creating a situation where you're doing more and more work, and of course that leads to more and more injuries and more profits for the corporations. And the other thing was joint activity. Now, how many people have heard of joint activity? Raise your hand. A lot of people haven't. That's very interesting. What is joint activity? Put into the contract that, not that, the union and the company's interests are completely counterposed. Their interest is for profit. Our interest is for our rights as human beings. Instead, it says in the contract that our interests are the same. Well, what does that mean? What that means is that essentially that we go along with the idea that profits is first and our needs as human beings are secondary. And so then they set up this whole structure with all these union officials. Were they elected? No, they were appointed. Yeah, the union leadership liked that. They had this whole army of people who were appointed and had to be dedicated to making sure the leadership stayed in there no matter what they did, and therefore it increased the lack of democracy in the UAW. So these were negotiated and put into the contract in the 1980s, and then the other thing was concessions. I don't have to ask you if you know what concessions are. I know that. But why would someone who's not in the union join a union that gives concession after concession after concession? Why do you need a union for that? That's a good question, right? And the concessions that they gave were, they took away cost of living. Boy, when I started in 1972, it's like we fought a whole strike to take the cap off of cost of living. And now we don't even have it anymore. We used to have fights about give the retirees cost of living. We never had it. Well, how can you give the retirees cost of living if the workers in the plant don't have it? 3% annual raise. Now, this is a concept because productivity increases, that therefore your wage should increase. Very logical, right? Well, we lost that in favor of lump sum payments, which in no way gets you what you need, because it's just a drop in the bucket, then it's gone, as opposed to you're building on something for the future. Then they went along with outsourcing and whipsawing, and I know everybody's heard of outsourcing. A little bit of my history is that I was elected for about 16 years of the 33 years that I worked. And is my time up? Okay, I'm going to have to speed ahead here just to say that I want to go back to, if you want to ask me about my history, I'll tell you, but basically to go back to the concessions. It was two-tier, temporary. They went along with it. It was the union's idea, and we still have that today. We made a little bit of an inroad to get back to where we were, but basically temporary workers just increasing. And the question of absenteeism was another thing where you can't be a human being. You know, if you're sick, you're going to get fired, you know, that. So basically, we have to change the UAW. It's the bottom line. And if you are somebody who is trying to organize into the UAW, you have to understand that that's what's involved. Changing the union. It's like if you're standing and a wave is coming towards you, okay, you've got to have your feet firmly planted in the sand. We've got 3 people here who did that, but you've got to make your fellow workers aware that they have got to be prepared for the onslaught, which is aggressive, but if we are prepared, we are united, we can overcome it.
Okay, I'm going to ask a couple of questions of the panelists and to get things rolling and get everybody thinking about the questions, and then we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. So I'm going to start with Byron. Byron, can you explain to us about the union and company neutrality agreement between Volkswagen and the UAW and what impact that had?
Yes. The UAW, right before the vote, signed a neutrality agreement, which they agreed to not impact the company's costs with, you know, the union negotiation. It had, you know, all kinds of language in it. It was about 12 pages long, I think. The anti-union, which this is different than like it was for Nissan and Volkswagen. Volkswagen did not oppose the union drive. They allowed the UAW to have an office inside the plant. But outside groups that, with tons of funding, there were all kinds of, that anti-tax Republican dude, I can't even remember his name, but Grover Norquist. He had a group in town. They spent all this money. They had an organizing committee of workers in the plant. They did have tons of salaried workers walking around wearing, you know, vote no T-shirts and things of that sort. And but the company did not directly oppose the union exactly. But there was tons of intimidation by members of management. The office that they had inside the plant, when you were supposed to bring, you know, people that were on the fence to talk to the organizers and get information and things of that sort. Well, it was like right by the door of the cafeteria. There are members of management who have made it well known to everybody that they oppose a union, surveilling the office. So, you know, I mean, obviously, if you are a known union supporter, whatever, that's no big deal, but you're already there. But, like, as far as getting a fence sitter to, you know, go talk to the UAW organizers in front of these members of management, I mean, it wasn't really possible. And it didn't help. I don't think it helped at all. I think that it was actually detrimental. And I think that the UAW organizers depended on this strategy, so they neglected more traditional things like home visits, anything like that. They were always at their office, and you had to bring people to them. They never got out, and you had to create your own networks. And we did do a really good job. Like in my area of the plant, I mean, we probably had 90%. You know, but there were other areas of the plant that were completely untouched. There wasn't a single union supporter in that area. The body shop, like, I think there were maybe 20 cars out of 400 people that worked there. You know, and we went to a vote with that. And yeah, I mean, it was a disaster, to put it mildly.
Okay, thanks, Byron. Shambe, you paid a steep price for your union activity, and you know, how is the UAW supportive of you after paying the price of being fired? It's pretty obvious to everyone here that you were targeted for firing because of your union activity. What was what did the UAW do to support you in the confrontation with management there?
Yeah, well, when I got fired, that's the first thing I did. I went over to the union hall, and the funny thing was, like, Nissan didn't give me my results of the drug test that they gave me, and so I told them that, and we went and filed charges with the NLLB, and probably a couple weeks after that, they hired me on to be part of the outreach team for the UAW pertaining to the March on Mississippi that we did, March 3rd, and that was pretty much it. And that was a short stint of work. You know, it wasn't longevity, and I mean, outside of that, nothing really else has happened. You know.
Have you found another job?
Well, I'm an artist, so a visual artist, and that's primarily what I've been doing, focusing on that, and it's been good to be able to do that. I always said that when I leave Nissan, I still wanted my hands to work, and it was definitely being threatened. But I've pretty much been doing that. I also work within the school system doing some art projects, and I've recently got on with Corporation Jackson as an organizer with them also.
Nice, very good. Robert, can you talk a little bit about the role of temporary workers in Nissan and how that affected the organizing drive?
The temp workers during the campaign, it was like he said, when they first came in the door. When I first came in the door, the first thing they asked, you know, are y'all familiar with unions? If you worked at a unionized job or whatever. And I know I told y'all I worked at like 3 jobs that was union, but I lied to Nissan. You know, I had to cover my tracks and stuff like that. But in the meeting and orientation, they did say things like, you're going to see some people out there with union shirts on, they're troublemakers, stay away from them, you know, all the other stuff, you know. And so that mentality was going into the production floor, basically. And the thing about it is that, like, during the time of the campaign and the election or whatever, you know, I heard a lot of, I call it slick talk, back talk, that the managers was going to the actual, you know, the temp workers, and they were saying things like, you know, if this union come, you can kiss your job goodbye, because they're going to lay all y'all out, they're going to try to save money, blah, 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 you know, and everything like that. So you might need to talk to some of your fellow full-time workers to let them know that the union is a bad idea, you know, and things like that of that nature. So, and it was a whole lot of temp workers that actually, like, wore those vote no shirts, because they were saying, look, I'm trying to, you know, get on with Nissan, I want to be full-time, I'm not trying to lose my job because of the union, I don't want no union, yada, 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 you know, all that. So Nissan played the psychological warfare, and they actually won when it comes to a lot of the temp workers and stuff. And, you know, a lot of supervisors, I mean, because you got to think about it, that plant holds like about, what, 6,000, 5,000 people? Yeah, so it was a lot of back talk from the supervisors going and telling the temp workers different things and saying that if they got them to vote no and they, you know, they actually win the vote no, they'll make them full-time, you know, off positions and everything like that. So basically, vote no, of course, won, and the temp workers are now looking stupid, like somebody threw a pie on their face.
Thank you, Robert. Wendy, when you left off, you were talking about, you were talking about outsourcing and whipsawing. Could you elaborate a little bit on both of those topics, please?
Right. My plant actually was an example of outsourcing. I worked for GM, hired in 1972, and when it got to the 80s, the company said to the union that they felt that those who make parts, and we were an axle plant, And axle is core to building the vehicle, and that's why it was a part of GM, that they wanted parts workers to make less. The union did not go along with that. So what did the company do? They went and sold the entire axle operation. And we were unprepared for this because actually in Chrysler and in Ford, they kept the axle operation for a number of years afterwards. But the union did not really fight this. This was outsourcing. Because the idea was, once you're not GM, later on down the line, even though there's a successor clause in the contract, which means that you have to buy the contract if you buy the company, later on in negotiations, they're going to try to take what you have away from you. And that's exactly what happened. So for the union to say, don't worry about it, which is what they told us, and we're not going to fight it because we'll be able to continue to negotiate it. Sure, they did for 2 times, and then the 3rd time, they came in and said everybody's got to make half. Benefits are going to be cut in half, and then later on, all the work is outsourced further to Mexican workers doing it for very little money. And then they shut the plant if you're not working for $10 an hour. Now, yes, a strategy to fight against this, or to fight against the concept of whipsawing, where one state is going to give enormous tax breaks to a corporation, and another state is going to try to make it even less. You have to have a movement where you're uniting everybody together, and you're saying that if you attack workers in this place, then you're going to fight against us all. And unless you are able to develop and willing to develop strategies where you're uniting everybody together, then you're going to have a problem. For instance, like team concept, which took away seniority, that was the union agreed to let that be negotiated at the local level. Once they did that, they pitted us all against each other. Who's going to go for it first? Who's going to be... Imagine if they negotiated wages at the local level. So this is whipsawing. This is outsourcing, and you have to unite together to fight back.
Thank you. Okay, right now I want to open it up to questions from the audience. I see several hands up, so I'm going to assign numbers. I expect you to remember your numbers. Okay, with the beret, you're number 1, you're number 2, you're number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9. Okay, remember your numbers because I'm not going to remember them. Number 1.
This is directed to the 3 ranking filers. In your opinion, what have the international or the organizers, what have they done differently that would have given you a better chance to win?
Yeah, I'm going to come around and bring the microphone to folks so everybody can hear. Brother, would you repeat your question, please?
Yeah.
My question is directed to the 3 ranking filers. In your opinion, what would have the international or the organizers done differently during the campaign that would have given you guys a better chance to win your election?
As for me, I think that they should have made it an international fight more so just than a local, because we definitely needed that help. It would have been great to have came to a letter of notes conference before, and now we've been able to reach out to more people to, look, we need some help down here, come through. And we had people come, but I think it should have been a lot more people at the march that we had. It would have been, because a lot of workers didn't even show up. They had some type of event on their own, the anti-union people, and they was trying to counter everything that we did. I also think that with Nissan putting forth the strong anti-campaign that they did, I'm like, when you watching television, every commercial break was an anti-Nissan commercial. And I'm talking about every break. For the whole time. All day, every day. YouTube commercials, everything. And they did radio commercials, they had a lot. And I don't think the UAW responded to that in the correct manner. Well, I don't think they responded at all. You know, we didn't have any commercials, you know, to negate none of that. He said they had an office in the plant. We didn't get that chance. They wasn't allowing that at all. And I think that fighting for a union in Mississippi has a lot of layers to it. You know, of course, you have the racism aspect of it, you have the economic aspect of it, the educational aspect of it, and so a lot of people didn't. A lot of workers, they're not educated, so they play on that fear. And you know, when they fired me, that scared a lot of people in my general area tremendously. You know, because they knew. I mean, I was always told by the UAW that if you speak out, you're more protected. They you know, less likely to mess with you. And it didn't really go down that way. They messed with me more, and ultimately got me out of there.
Robert or Byron, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, sure. I think that they could have maybe looked for more support from the community. There were local clergymen that wanted to be involved in the effort. They have their office, we share our hall with the our IBEW local, which is probably our biggest, most powerful union in town. All of those guys were chomping at the bit to be involved, and the UAW always, you know, rebuffed those efforts. And you know, I think that they should have visited people at home. They should have found ways to contact people outside the plant. I think trying to rely entirely on the organizing happening inside the plant, with us trying to just go in there and get people to sign cards at work, is too difficult. It's too even with Volkswagen not being real. Like, there was opposition. You know, management did oppose us, but much more subtly. It wasn't like official meetings where you're told not, you know, it's more like a whisper campaign. A manager has a suck up that he knows is, you know, and he tells that guy stuff, and that guy goes around telling everybody, you know, that they could pay. And while I have not been fired, I did experience retaliation after the vote. You know, and I was a team leader. I've been demoted. I was put on night shift for a while. I've gotten discipline for some shit that was a complete lie, you know, and so I don't know. I mean, I think more support of you, you know, when we ask for stuff, we would try to ask to do things, and they would always try to shut it down. I think maybe if we had based the campaign more on the issues, the conditions in there are absolutely atrocious. And it was always about, you know, getting a contract, we'll get a contract, and those things will get better. And it was always very abstract. When we, you know, some of my coworkers, we had stormed HR before about them removing jobs and then speeding up the line. You know, so we can fight based on these things. And everybody, whether they're pro-union or Republican or whatever, that works in that plant agrees about that bullshit.
Okay, let's take the next question.
Bonjour à tous, je vais parler en français. I'm going to translate for him, he's French. My English is too bad. Je suis responsable du secteur automobile pour le syndicat solidaire dans Solidaire Industrie en France.
He's responsible for the automobile section of the Union Solidaire in France.
Et je travaille comme ingénieur chez Renault. Donc nous sommes collègues puisque Nissan fait partie du même groupe que Renault, comme Mitsubishi.
And he works for Renault, so you guys basically work for the same company because it's part of the same group than Mitsubishi and Nissan.
Et donc nous avons le même patron, Carlos Ghosn, qui se répand dans les médias pour dire qu'il respecte la liberté syndicale partout dans le monde.
So you work for the same boss, Carlos Ghosn, which goes in media all over the world and pretends that he respects freedom of organization.
Mais dans la réalité, que ce soit à Nissan Canton, ou en Turquie à Bursa, ou au Maroc, ou en Roumanie, ou dans plein d'autres pays, la répression, est-ce que vous avez vécu, est la même.
But in reality, in all the places he owns in Turkey, in Bursa, in Morocco, and in Romania, the repression is the same thing. It's as bad everywhere.
C'est pourquoi il est important d'essayer de construire des relations internationales entre nous pour arriver effectivement à dénoncer cette situation.
This is why it's important for us to develop international relations so we can all denounce the situation together.
Nous sommes intervenus, mon syndicat est intervenu auprès de Carlos Ghosn pour dénoncer justement ce qui se passait à Canton et il a répondu qu'il ne faisait que respecter la loi.
So his trade union actually intervened with this guy Carlos Ghosn to denounce what was going on in Mississippi when you guys were organizing, and all he answered is that he would respect the law.
Et une délégation de UAW est venue en France pour rencontrer les représentants français des syndicats, mais ils sont allés vers des représentants syndicaux qui sont des représentants syndicaux qui suivent les patrons.
Oh, sorry, I'm too loud. So the UAW actually sent a delegation to France as well to meet with the French trade unions, but they met with the most reformist trade unions, which basically just go by what the boss says.
Ils sont intervenus auprès de Carlos Ghosn en disant respecter la démocratie à Canton, Mississippi. Il a dit oui, je le respecte et c'est tout.
They went towards the Carlos Ghosn to ask that he respects freedom of organization in Mississippi, and he just said, "Yeah, I respect it," and that's enough.
Je crois que donc il faut qu'on construise des relations entre nous pour essayer d'intervenir, mais de façon internationale, pour dénoncer cette situation. Et parce que nous avons le même boss, nous avons les mêmes difficultés, et donc c'est ensemble qu'on arrivera à faire bouger les choses.
And once again, that's why we need to create international relations for us to work together, because we have the same boss, we work in the same conditions, and we have the same issues, and if we want to make things move, change, we got to all work together.
I'd like to, first of all, ask a question. How powerful would it be if, while we were having the March on Mississippi, if at the same time the Nissan plants in Europe and in Asia were being picketed by the workers there? That's what power the international solidarity has, and the corporations have gone global to divide us. They're going to divide us because we have a language barrier that we are overcoming here at Labor Notes, right? So I'd like you guys to comment on that a little bit.
You guys turned down the volume just a little.
Keep it moving.
Yeah. I would like to say that April 2016, I went with some of the UAW workers, some of the UAW organizers and another worker. We went to Paris to talk to the French government about what was going on. Carlos said before them and told them that he supports unions all over the world, and everywhere they had unions, and that he don't have a problem with it. But when he said that, The next week at work, we had a video saying that it's not in the best interest for us to have a union. Someone recorded it, and that's the video that we took over to Paris to show them, and they were floored. They couldn't believe that he had done that. But yeah, we made attempts to get with the French government and the Renault to, I guess, formalize something that we can do.
Oh, let me just say this. What the guy said earlier about Carlos going respecting the law, and he don't respect nothing but his pockets and everything in the money. That's all he cares about. Internationally, just like what you said, whatever, if we had that march in Mississippi, some of the French and everyone in Brazil came over and everything, but I would like to see something like that, a march across the world at one time. I want to see that support to where, like, if anybody in the Nissan Renault family, if there's any type of oppression and injustice going on, that we all walk out. Even though it's not in our plan, there's something going on in Tennessee, we walk out. If something going on in Brazil, we walk out. And that's the type of international combative that strategy that I like to see. Because we hear about it from, hearsay and the internet and everything like that. But until we get that connection and networking going on, and fight the hard way, just like the company did. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. Shambe seen it. He's seen it at Volkswagen. So we pretty much already know what we're up against, and we have to fight dirty with them, And if Carlos going like his pockets so much, I mean, you probably have to hold his pockets, And I bet you anything, if all of us walk out at the same time, he gonna fix anything going on in that damn plant.
Okay, number 3.
Good morning, everybody. Miles Warren Jr. from the UAW Local 551 here in Chicago. This question is for Brother Bay, and it's short. You said you did an independent urine analysis. I got 2 questions. When you did your independent urine analysis, how soon did you do it after management had you did it? And when you got your results back, you didn't go see a lawyer?
Yeah, okay. When I did the results, I didn't never get the results from Nissan, but I was going that same day, but they held me in there so long to where I was supposed to go next to get my test done. They had closed, so I went that Monday morning and got it done. And we working on that through UAW and NLRB. Still waiting on them to, I guess, get the paperwork through. I don't know what takes so long. I hear they're very slow with their actions, but yeah, there's a lawyer on the case.
Slow is an understatement.
Yeah, it's a lawyer on the case.
Question number 4. Who was it?
My question's short. I wanted to ask it to the leader from the Volkswagen plant. So in the beginning, you talked about how you had no idea what the status of the percentage of the cars were until after. And I've organized for both non-neutrality agreements and in neutrality agreements. Do you think that the lack of urgency with the initial messaging actually affected maybe not you, but others' understanding of how you actually have to build a much higher percentage even under a neutrality agreement? Because employers always violate them.
There was very slow momentum because we always expected a card check, which was 50 plus 1. That was what was expected, and then we had a group of workers try to pressure the UAW into going for a vote about a year before we actually voted. And they were like, no, we'll lose a vote. You have to have a much higher percentage. And then It was a card check. As far as we knew, the workers, it was a card check until 3 weeks before we had the vote. So, yeah, it probably made a difference.
So let me see if I understand this clearly. They were going to take the cards that were signed as a vote and allow the UAW to organize the plant, call them the exclusive bargainer, with 51% of card check, or 50% plus one of card check?
Yes, that was, the UAW expected that Volkswagen would voluntarily recognize just cards.
Companies don't always hold up to their bargains. Let's see, we're on number. I'd also like to ask how long before you can have another election for union representation?
I believe we could have an election now if we had the numbers. Actually, they did. We have met many members of the Iggy Mattel, and part of the problem, I think, is I agree with exactly what you say. I'm familiar with the Charter on International Labor Relations, and it is as simple. When I've met people from Germany, they're like, well, what do you do? You know, because you'll tell them that, you know, we have more, it has to be less than 10% temps. We have more than that. We probably have, you know, 20 or 30% temp workforce. So Volkswagen, or the UAW, I should say, they were hoping that the German unions would apply pressure so that they could avoid issues-based organizing. So that is exactly why we work in these atrocious conditions. Because they can get away with it. They're that greedy. Just like the brother from Brazil was talking about, they never give up in trying to take more money, take more people off the line, speed the line up, and the only way to stop that is to stop the line, stop production.
Got that right. Number 12.
Hi, so I'm a northerner, but I had my parents retired to South Carolina for a few years before they passed. And I was shocked when I visited them because it's very rural South Carolina, and it's like the civil rights movement never happened there. The level of institutional racism was just astounding to me. And I just wondered, talking to the Nissan folks, was that reality a factor in the campaign in Mississippi? And one of the rumors that I heard was that even some of the churches, the black churches, were like handing out anti-union paraphernalia, and they had been kind of co-opted by the boss. And I wanted to ask, apart from just the union issues, was that institutional racism something that the UAW was successful in countering, or what would you do differently?
I see racism every day, even when I'm not inside the plant and when I'm, just going about my business in Mississippi. But the thing is, as far as like countering, the first thing, and I brought it up to managers, I let them know that, look, there's a lot of racism in here, and that's a big no-no to me, And the first thing these songs would say, well, it's equal opportunity, blah, 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 and everything, and things like that. It's been so many issues that, workers have complained about, racist, remarks and things like that or whatever. And now the thing about it is, it's like I said earlier, there's a radio talk show.